So I think, as discussed before, we want to, get beyond the technology, but get beyond the bots, as they say. And I sense we're going to have a lot of agreement on this. But I think we've heard a lot of talk today that there's so much focus on the technology. There's so much focus on AI because it's cool and it's exciting and it's transformational. And it is. But there's so much more to it than that, right? Experience, design. Like when I said it, what comes to mind initially for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we see a lot of people see the technology as a sticking plaster.
Yeah.
It's only part of the equation. So you can take really great technology, but if you don't think about the experience or the data going into it, then the tech is never going to perform as well as it should do. So we always want to make sure that we consider the end-to-end user experience. What are they coming into? What does it look like? Are they authenticated? Do they need to be authenticated? Let's not stress them out if they don't need to.
There's so much detail behind it, right?
And it's like even the role of conversation design, and there's some talk of that not being a relevant role anymore. But in my opinion, it is even more important now we're bringing generative AI. It's just the role is evolving. Yeah. It's not going anywhere. We still have to think of that experience.
So how do you, when you think of examples recently then of that, right? So Gen AI has come crashing into this industry, but how you design a customer conversation, what a great experience is, that's a discipline that's been around for a while, but it's changing because of Gen AI. Can you think of any recent examples that you guys worked on that really stood out to you, really impressed you as, okay, that's how it should be done. That's the real stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a couple of clients that we've worked with where from the branding, so the color scheme, is it accessible? Can all users see it clearly? To the experience, not having jargon in there, not having, unnecessary content in there. That's all vital to that experience. And we've got some clients who go for the hybrid approach of NLU and LLMs because they work in a regulated industry where they just can't risk the, an hallucination or something incorrect, or wording has to be, on point due to legal obligations. So actually that is just vitally important that we have to do that throughout. So we've got a lot of clients that are doing that at the moment, and they're starting with the problem, and that's vital to what is the problem they're trying to solve. Yeah. Then they're using the tech, then the experience, bring it all together. Is a data source the right data source? Is that data source correct? Is it up to date? Because we're finding a lot that when we start integrating the data, actually it's incredibly out of date, and we're finding things that people are saying, that changed 5 years ago. So actually, let's make sure that that's all incorporated.
I feel like we've been having that conversation for a long time, right? We both have an automation background, integration background. I mean, is there something fundamental in that then, the sort of preparatory stuff? Because let's say I'm a customer, I'm talking to you, and I'm really excited about Gen AI, and I want to implement it, and I want to make that change, but I'm still sat on a giant stack with lots of disparate data. Do you find yourself having to have the same fundamental conversation to enable the AI to take shape?
Absolutely, because if you've got a bad process, putting Gen AI on it is not going to fix that process. So sometimes you have to take a step back. Let's look at the process, let's improve it, let's make sure that that's fit for purpose, because it's never going to be a great experience, or you're not going to have the outcomes. You're just going to be disappointed as a business on what the Gen AI can do if you're not going to look at that process. So yeah, we have to sometimes take baby steps. We sometimes have to go back a few steps. I'm as keen as the next person to get a great experience out there. So let's actually start from the beginning, the right place. What is the process? Can we tweak or change the process before we bring Gen AI in? What does that look like?
Interesting. So instead of the answer's AI or Gen AI, what's the question? It's take that fundamental. So how easy is that to do then? Because obviously you're interacting with senior stakeholders, people sponsoring this stuff, people's budgets. How easy is it to have that conversation when they're either salivating at the prospect of AI straight away and they're under pressure? We've heard a lot today about people wanting to pick up the pace, or maybe they're talking about outcomes that are cost savings around some other metric that's become really important. How do you sort of ground a senior stakeholder and a customer and kind of explain, I know you're excited, but how do you have that conversation and keep the enthusiasm with a customer?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it is about honesty, and it's not always what people want to hear, but sometimes we just have to give them an example. So if we know that process isn't going to be a great process to automate or bring generative AI in, we can explain what the outcomes could be if we don't improve it. What are the risks? What is the reputational risk? What is going to happen to that big investment you're going to make? And actually, you might see negative return on investment if you don't sort that out. So it's just taking them through the steps, telling them the story. What are the risks? What are the benefits? What does the full story look like for them as a business? They don't want that reputational brand at the end, like bad reputation as a brand at the end of the day. So actually, let's make sure that we have those honest conversations. They're sometimes a difficult conversation.
Yes.
It's not always a conversation someone wants to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, just ground it in truth, I think is a key thing.
Yeah, and that's probably been the theme of today, right? Clarity and some cases brutal honesty, what needs to be said. Like, is there an example that comes to mind then? I mean, you don't have to name them if you're not allowed to, but is there an example of where you think that whole decisioning process on the customer side, you got a great engagement, they really understood the real steps to follow, and they kept that enthusiasm about AI, but you were able to guide them, and now you look on that first deployment and you're really proud of it because it came in the right way and the results speak for themselves. Is there an example you could point to? Yeah,
so we're actually working with a client who has done that exact step at the moment. They already have in part of their business generative AI, conversational AI powered with generative AI.
Right.
And for that part of the business, it works really well. They had another part of the business that's really complex, a lot of old systems that can't be tweaked, change. And they recognize the value that it could bring by bringing conversational AI with generative AI within it. But they also realize their process isn't perfect. They know that they had to take a step back. And it's quite a great conversation to have with them because they trusted us because they'd been through that experience already. To be able to go, actually, yes, we recognize there's benefit, there's great benefit, but actually let's do all this pre-work.
Yeah.
By doing that pre-work and getting your process in a fit state, let's do that. And then we'll bring the big bucks afterwards, essentially. And that great experience. So yeah, we have got some clients that have done that. And it was great because we'd already been on that experience. So they saw the power, but they self-reflected and realized that actually, hold the mirror to yourself. What does it look like? Yeah. No process is perfect. Many businesses, especially in a legacy sort of industry, they have old systems, they have old processes. So just looking at that and realizing is a really great way of working.
So the funny thing is, we're talking about problems to be solved, jobs to be done, processes, people, the same stuff we have to talk about with every customer. And I guess AI is triggering these conversations all over again. But like any project, it's business change. It's the stuff that you guys at Ciklum do every day, right? There's the fact that AI is the ingredient this time doesn't change any of the fundamentals of how you bring about change management in a client, right? It's no different to any other technology we've worked with before.
So all automation, like we've had these problems with, from RPA to conversational AI that was just powered with NLU to now generative AI. The issues remain the same, but the impact of not sorting those issues out are becoming amplified. So actually it's becoming more risky to not sort it out. So our processes and our recommendations can often be similar to what they were before. Actually how we approach them to actually improve them has changed. So now we're bringing different tech in, different AI in to actually improve the process in a quicker way than what we would say have done 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But actually the theory is still the same. We have to improve that process, but actually it's often now quicker to improve that process than what it was before.
That's cool.
And so we can get to automation and AI quicker than what we could previously.
Okay. So if someone was saying like, what's the upside? What's really possible right here, right now? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot and I need a specific percentage, but like if a new customer engages and says, well, I've heard a lot about this stuff and I've spoken to some of my peers in the industry and they're talking about this metric, that metric, this percentage. I mean, how do you answer that honestly, like in a way that shows the potential of it, shows the upside, but it's not, 150% this and what's a comfortable range you talk about or how would you answer that kind of question?
Yeah, and it's a really difficult question because often a lot of the impact that we see is based on how much appetite that company has. So for change, for example. So if you're really risk adverse and you don't want to change your processes, then you're never going to get the full impact. So we might be in the sort of 10-20% region because we can only do so much. If you're not willing to change the process, or you're too nervous about bringing AI in its full format, we're reducing what we can do with it. If you've got great ambition, you've got a really engaged team around you, both your immediate team, so within like a center of excellence, but also in terms of IT, procurement, all those other people who have an impact on what you do. Getting those people engaged in the right way straight away and accepting that some processes might have to be changed to bring in the full value. then we could be talking, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Can we bring in API integration as well? Can we bring those backends in? Do we need to change those backends? And understanding it's often a journey. We might not see those numbers straight away, but we can get to those if you are willing to put in that extra sort of that piece of work, essentially.
Okay. The integrations piece, let's just dwell on that, because I don't think anyone's surprised that a really good one of these deployments has a lot of integrations. But how, it's a slightly leading question because I know how good you are at it, but how critical is integrations, right? Because I think everyone gets excited about the AI talking to the customers, but certainly what we see on the Boost side is even just a handful of back office systems connected in the right way, the knowledge of the customer you can bring, the personal, all the strap lines then come to life, right? You can personalize it for the customer.
Yeah.
You can get into money-making promotional stuff. Would you agree with that? Obviously integration is a big part of what you do at Ciklum.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the power, so large language models, they are amazing. They can do great things, but there is a limit to what they can do. If they don't know anything about the customer, then how can they personalize that journey for the customer? So integrate into your CRM system. When did that customer last contact you? What did they contact you about? Where are they in their contract? Before that, can we do authentication? Do we need to do authentication? Can we go into backend systems and authenticate them? Can we understand all about them? Having that information will just power what the bot can do. It really helps amplify that. And then similar, actually help the agent as well. So if we're handing over, can we, take that information, put it straight into the CRM so the agent, if they speak to the customer, they know they've spoken to them bot maybe 3 days ago about a query, but actually they've come back. So why have they come back? But they know they've had that.
It's got the context, right?
Yeah,
so yeah,
it's all there.
Yeah. Do you think there's a race almost? Because I think in my customer experience, there's a telco we're dealing with, and I thought they had a really great point, which is the primary contact phone number that most customers use these days is the mobile, right? Days of landlines are over. So they know within a pretty high percentage chance, if you're phoning their contact center from your personal mobile, that's as good a tool to authenticate as anything else. So they're experimenting with, well, what if we auto sort of authenticate people based on that as fast as we can, and then you instantly know where the customer lives, and then it's a telco, right? What are most people ringing about? Outages, problems, and you can sort of preempt the question and say, oh, if you're ringing about the outage, don't worry, there's already an engineer. And do you think there's a space to be really competitive of how quickly can the system understand who it's talking to? And then how quickly can you bring those personalized? I feel like that's the experience we're all chasing, right?
Yeah.
That's the promise of AI. I greet you, I understand you immediately, and then here come all the personalized stuff.
And even a step before that. So if we know there's an outage, we know that customer's impacted, why aren't we proactively reaching out to them before the customer even comes to
Even
it?
better.
So actually, yes, take all that great stuff that you just said, but actually just tell the customer. They don't have to worry. They don't have to spend time ringing or, messaging online on their app, however we're doing it. Just tell the customer you've got all that information, you've got all that data. So why don't we proactively reach out to them?
There's a good example of it's visualizing the experience. Your experience engineering, I think, is a really good way of sort of capturing that in a statement. Because if you can conceive a better experience, chances are the tech will get you there now.
Yeah, absolutely.
10 years ago, no, but now if you can conceive it, you can probably do it, right? With a few integrations and connections and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. The world has opened up in what we can do now compared to what we could do 10 years ago. We've massively evolved from that FAQ bot that couldn't understand who you were, would break down, fall down if we didn't have the right perfect, intents mapped out. Yeah. So actually, the world really is your oyster in what you're going to do, but you have to have that sort of integration back end as well to be able to give that full experience, and also then the large language model. But actually, can use NLU still. It still has a lot of value for those places where there's a regulation need. So actually, we're blending all the pieces of the puzzle and putting it together to make a great experience.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought, healthy debates with customers we have is, if you care that much about customer experience to want to transform it, surely control is an element you can't drop.
Yeah.
Because there's certain experiences that you must control absolutely to create the right outcome. And that's before you think about compliance and regulations and the things that mandate you must control it. But if you actually care about a customer, why did you care about it enough to control it? And that's why NLU still has a place when you blend it with Gen AI, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if there's a specific element of your brand that you never want to deviate from on what that story is, then have it in a controlled environment. It might not be because of regulations. It might just be that you're so passionate as a brand about that piece. Let's build that in. Let's not leave that to chance with a large language model. So yeah, even elements like that where you just, as a brand, really want to have control over something, let's use the NLU for that.
Well said. I'm going to ask you one cheeky question to finish. I want to talk about technology, despite saying we're getting beyond the technology. I want to talk about it. And when we think about how we partner together, you're often in the seat where you're being asked to recommend platforms, compare platforms, elements of platforms, elements of functionality, and there's obviously a bewildering number of choices. How do you approach that conversation? You know, because there's two elements. You know, if we look at Boost, right, we have the platform. And then we obviously have models, and customers can bring their own if they prefer. So there's different, and that's before you integrate with other pieces. How do you approach that discussion with such a bewildering number of choices, Mark?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think the fact that with the likes of Boost, there is options and choices like that, like bring your own, like that's an option that customers want. We're not putting them into like one bucket and saying everyone wants the same. They want an easy to use platform that performs well, that can integrate with their back of the systems. So actually, why would we not recommend this as a first stop solution? Bring everything else that they need in. Also, it's with the likes of Boost, it's knowing your customers as well. Like, you know the customers as good as we know the customers. You are passionate about that experience as we're passionate about that experience. So I think that works well as well, because sometimes even if a technology is great, there might not be that passion behind it. And that really helps bring the customer along on their journey, because we can pick a lot out of them. If we're excited, they're excited, and it helps them think a little bit out of the box as well.
I think, and also what we've learned, and going back to our opening here on getting beyond the technology and beyond the bots, I mean, there's just, candidly, there's no way for us as a vendor alone to position this end to end without the support of someone like you guys, right? Because we have to talk about a bigger end to end conversation about design, about customer experience, and you know, we will have some domain knowledge and expertise, customers in other industries. Maybe we've worked with that client before, you the same, but obviously you bring that deep industry expertise. And I think, yeah, you know, I don't want to be as cliche as saying better together, but we believe in that, right? But I think AI and Gen AI uniquely requires that, right? Because you know that no consulting partner, no vendor has the whole answer to the question. It's only when you blend the two, you can actually answer what that client believes they want.
Absolutely. It's like a symbiotic relationship.
Yes, that's a far better term.
And it is that ability as well to think of, like, you know, the full customer experience. So I think, you know, back when Conversational AI and chatbots and FAQs was first brought in, they were brought in very much in a silo. They weren't, the bigger experience wasn't considered, though, like this bot answers this FAQ at this time when a customer has a problem. Like that's your entire job. Now we think of, like, you know, from start to finish, from pre-sales of a customer to sales to retention. Like, let's think of that journey and how the experience from start to finish of that customer's life cycle with you works, and actually how that works with their customers then. So actually, let's bring it all together to bring that experience together.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for partnering with us on that journey. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great catching up with you.